Hi guys, thanks again for coming to meet me on this wonderful April night, and today we are going to talk about fish, or particularly wild-caught fish in comparison to farm-raised, and why you should just not choose farm-raised. Now, about a year ago I was back in Indiana, which is, well, the weather's more predictable there, I'll just say that. And while I was there, I was actually working in a meat department. And whenever someone would come up to the counter and ask for fish, they would always choose wild-caught. And if it was like their last resort, they would only choose farm-raised. And I was inexperienced when I first started, so I decided to do a little research, and a lot of that actually coincides with this. Now, one of the big things about farm-raised fish is the overall quality. I mean, you look at a piece of fish and you're like, oh hey, this is a piece of fish. One's brighter than the other. The reason that a lot of these fish are going to be brighter, if you're looking at a bright piece of fish, it's more than likely wild-caught, because the feed that they actually feed the fish is very high in a chemical called PCB, polychloronic biphenyls, which are actually called immortal chemicals, which once introduced into a system, they cannot be removed. That's why you see some fish with higher amounts of mercury in them. Now, Harvard's Men's Health actually published the information about that, and they actually did many conclusive studies that proved that you're going to find higher amounts of mercury within those fish. Wild-caught, however, you have migratory patterns to them. They're not going to be dwelling in one area, so they're not going to have higher concentrations. Now, in comparison to farm-raised, not only are you going to have the higher quality fish with wild-caught, but you're also going to have more omega-3s, which are these vitamins which are detrimental to your health. The article Hooked on Fish also delves into how wild-caught fish are just overall better themselves. They even go far as to say that while the feed that is actually provided to them in the farms actually has a chemical that makes the fish a brighter color, because without it, it would just be this dark, unhealthy-looking thing, which, let's be honest, if you saw a dark piece of meat on the counter, it's either the blood is gone or it's a bad cut of meat, and you don't want a bad cut of meat. So, why go the same way with fish? Another really great thing to consider with wild-caught fish is they're less prone to parasites. These guys are sea lice, or sea louse singular in this one. These guys are wonderful little bitties, where if they attach to the fish, they actually weaken the immune system, make the fish sicker, faster. It will die easily. Now, wild-caught populations, you're going to see very few of these guys. The opposite can be said for certain farm-raised conditions. Now, if you guys haven't seen what farm-raised salmon looks like, yes, it is going to be darker, but it's just going to taste a little bit worse than a regular fish. I'm not saying the fish is bad. But these fish, they're kept in essentially cages. They have very little movement, so there's no way that they can even avoid things. So that gives the sea louse the perfect opportunity to raise its young in a wonderful environment that's full of food. In this case, fish, which they will attach to and cause severe lesions, in extreme cases down to the bone, and is not pleasant to look at. The website Hooked and Farm-Raised Dangerous really goes into a lot of detail about that too, and not only do these farms, certain farms have high amounts of these parasites in them, but certain chemicals that are pumped into there to actually care for the fish actually ebb into the ecosystem, affecting wild-caught populations. Because yes, in certain areas there are still wild-caught populations of fish, and many of these negative factors can actually transfer over to them. Now, what you can really do, to be honest, they're huge corporations, and yes, you can stop buying the product, but it's just going to be replaced by someone else. What you can do personally is just choose wild-caught fish for you, to be honest, because you won't just be getting regular nutrients in it, which will just be an overall positive benefit. You're also going to be knowing that you're going to be not dealing with parasites, because these guys are essentially scooped out of the ocean, processed, you're good to go. Not just that process though. highly encourage you guys, if you ever do get to the point where you're deciding you want fish for dinner, think of your families in this too. Would you want one of those guys latched onto your dinner? They're not that big, trust me. But still, that's like a super leech. But yeah, I just highly encourage you guys, think next time before you buy your fish, because seriously, think about that. That is scary. But yeah, guys, I just want you guys to take this into account next time you go out shopping. Thank you all very much for coming out. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good night, okay?